some names that endorsed and grabbed hold of this viewpoint. I want to talk to you very briefly now on the 6 main beliefs of secular humanism. And some of these beliefs go pretty in depth, but I want to just go over the main 6. The first one is atheism. Secular humanists believe in atheism. They believe there is no God. It's that simple. If you are a true secular humanist, you're an atheist. The other belief of the secular humanist is what our teacher talked about earlier. He talked about moral relativism. That's one of the foremost viewpoints of secular humanism, that all truth is relative, there are no absolutes, whatever is good for you in your belief system, as long as it doesn't harm anyone, is okay. If I believe that way, I can, but I don't have to believe that way. The third belief of secular humanism is evolution. We know that. Evolution is one of the foremost ideologies taught in our public schools today. The fourth belief is socialism, okay? And if anybody doesn't know what socialism is, it's the elimination of private property. It's that simple. You are not allowed to own your own property. You can't have whatever you want. If you worked and you made $1 million, it's not yours. You work for somebody else and it gets divided. The socialistic government is not a God-ordained government. Number 5, the number 5th belief is an autonomous, self-centered man. What does that mean? Secular humanists believe that man was at the center of all things and he's good at his core. And if he does do evil, it's only because his environment caused him to do evil. How many times do we hear that from young people? I was brought up this way. I was born like this. We hear that now from the homosexual agenda and their activist movement. I was born this way. I can't help it. And I'm saying it in public because we hear it. That's what we hear out there. That's reality. And you know what? A secular humanist would say, hey, you know what? I'm the center, and I'm a good person. I was born good, but all these negative influences came into my life, and I can't help it now. So you know what, if I leave here today and a bus pulls out in front of my bus and I get mad and I shoot every passenger in that bus, I can just say I couldn't help it. I was upset. I was mad. That's what they say. It's funny. It really is funny, but that's what a secular humanist would say. And they believe it and they buy into that. The number 6 main belief is a one-world government. And if you look into this philosophy, they believe that national sovereignty and world borders must be dissolved. National sovereignty and world borders must be dissolved. You know what that means, folks? That means we're no longer United States of America. That means there's no longer such thing as each nation governed by their own government, by their own democracy. It means we're one world, we don't have sovereignty, and guess what our religion is? Secular humanism. That's their belief system. That's a 6-fold belief system, and that's the core. I could go into these in depth, but they promote this in our public school system. Let me ask you this question. Why is this such a harmful belief system? Number 1, the first reason, secular humanism becomes the most intolerant movement of them all. If you are not a secular humanist and you are in a college setting or a public school setting and you do not preach or speak or do what they believe, you're the enemy, and it's that simple. This movement seeks to apply acid to all institutions to burn away those beliefs which do not find favor with the modern spirit of tolerance and relativism. They will tell you that. I didn't make that up. That's coming from the Humanist Manifesto too. And there were two Humanist Manifestos. There was number 1, which was written in 1933, and number 2, which was written in 2000. They wrote this in their own manifesto. The third problem is that embodied today in this movement is the homosexual activist movement. And we know, if anyone knows of this movement, that movement says, you know what? Anyone that gets in our way, we're getting out of the way. And so we need to be aware of what's out there. Now, is secular humanism a religion? Some of you might ask, well, I don't know. Some of us might think it's just a viewpoint or a set of beliefs. John Dewey described humanism as our common faith. The Humanist Manifesto spoke openly of humanism as a religion. That's the Humanist Manifesto. In 1961, the U.S. Supreme Court acknowledged that secular humanism was indeed a religion. In 1957, the Supreme Court holds that secular humanism is a non-theistic religion within the meaning of the First Amendment. The U.S. Court of Appeals in 1979 defined a secular humanist society as a religious organization and granted it tax exemption. Listen to the irony of that. It's not a religion for Establishment Clause purposes, but it is a religion for the free exercise thereof. So it appears that our government has used secular humanism along with the secular humanists to their advantage. In one sense, they don't want it to be a religion because the government is not allowed to establish a religion. However, they claimed it a free exercise of religion. They have the right to do that, and they were granted nonprofit status. Yet I wonder if any of us wanted to exercise our God-given viewpoints, would we have that same fairness? And I'm here today to tell you no, not in the state that we're in. A teacher who wants to tell his students about his religious beliefs is free to do so if his religion is the religion of secular humanism, but may not tell his students about his religious beliefs if his religion is Christianity. Christians are not allowed to discuss Christianity with students during a lunch break, while humanists are allowed to teach the tenets of secular humanism from the blackboard during class. Some argue that humanism, unlike Christianity, does not force a set of religious positions and beliefs on people. However, David Noble, in his book Mind Siege, says humanists preach a faith every bit as dogmatic as Christianity. Moral relativism is foundational for their ethics. Spontaneous generation and evolution are basic to their biology. Naturalism is foundational to their philosophy, and atheism is their theological perspective. The National Education Association, the NEA, has endorsed this religion since 1930. They encourage members to support birth control, family planning, diversity of sexual orientation, and gender identification. The NEA has also opposed creationism and parental rights. So for those of you that aren't aware of the NEA, the National Education Association, they have opposed parental rights. In fact, they brought a law onto the books in the 1970s that in a public school, the information between a teacher and a student could be protected by law if it was quote unquote confidential, or what they deemed confidential. Thus, a teacher could come to me as a student, tell me anything, and I could tell them anything, and they did not have to tell my parents. That's basically what the law said. Secular humanism has risen to the forefront of American thinking, yet curiously, American